Major news today coming out for the New York Giants that they have signed Russell Wilson to a one-year deal. How will that affect their overall 2025 draft? My name's Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and we've got a 3-round mock draft for you coming up here in a second. But before we do that, let's do all the YouTube things. Subscribe, like, leave a comment. Let us know what you think of the draft and tackle that bell to get notified when videos come out. Ryan, let's pull up the first slide here. So Russell Wilson, as I said, is a New York Giant for the 2025 season. How will that impact their overall draft? Ryan and I think that they will move on from Shedeur Sanders, whether he's taken by Cleveland or not, and go and get Travis Hunter here with the 3rd overall pick. They've already made some secondary changes as well, but I think what you're getting here in Travis Hunter is one of the most unique prospects, maybe arguably one of the most athletic prospects I think that we've seen in a long time, just with his
Yeah.
overall versatility on the defensive side of the ball and what I think Brian Dable can do with him on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at his tape from 2024 was so impressive. Just the amount of snaps he played. He played at an elite level at the cornerback spot, and then I don't. He's probably the best wide receiver in this class, but like just at such a high level on the offensive side of the ball, and he part of that is just because he is an elite athlete. He was able to out athlete a lot of players, but then he has a lot more savvy on his tape than you would think, and so I think he's primarily going to be a corner for
Mhm.
this team, and then Brian Dable will probably have 20 to 25 sets of him being worked in, or 20 to 25 snaps a game of him being worked into the offense, where you can have Malik Neighbors, Travis Hunter on the field at the same time for Jameis Winston or Russell Wilson or whoever they draft to throw to. So the potential options, they could go Shedeur Sanders here. If they are in on Shedeur, I think that could be a realistic landing spot for him. I will say the floor for Shedeur though, or the floor for Shedeur being drafted
That's
is
like that's like the antithesis to like the Thrilla in Manila. It's like you
yeah.
don't want to be the floor for Shedeur. Is like does not sound good.
No. I mean, he realistically like could fall all the way down to the second round. I mean, there are just a lot of teams in between here and like the Steelers that aren't really quarterback needy. Like the next 4 or 5 teams, maybe the Saints take a swing on them, but they have Spencer Rattler that they're fairly happy with. So there's a potential that the Giants could take Travis Hunter here and then package their 2nd and 3rd round picks and move back up into the low 20s to potentially draft Shedeur there and take a swing there and bring in both the guys from Colorado. So I'm really
Yeah,
interested.
yeah, like the Raiders, I don't think will after you trade for Geno Smith, and then I think they even actually did they sign him to a couple years
Yeah,
extra
they signed him to an
extension?
extension.
Yeah, so and then New York Jets go after Justin Fields, maybe, but like it is just a 2-year deal, but he's also young, so there is that potential. Uh, Saints, you brought up as well. Seattle's not going to do it now after signing Sam Howell. Pittsburgh
Sam
Steelers,
Darnold.
yes, Sam Darnold.
Big
I think
difference.
they do have Sam Howell though, still,
Yeah,
don't
they
they?
do. Yeah.
Yeah, so the Sam show. Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe. Los Angeles Rams, maybe. But then yeah, like when you start getting to the teams that made the playoffs, they're all normally actually pretty good at the quarterback position. So it's going to be unique what happens for the floor for Shedeur. It's going to be an amazing event to tune into. I love that. We're
Yeah.
going to have to trademark that phrase. So let's move
Yeah.
on though now to the second round here. So they've gotten their quarterback situation at least figured out now. Like the long-term future they still don't know yet, but for 2025 they figured out they do still need some help on the offensive line. Just overall, Evan Neal is definitely he's a bust. I would say maybe they kick him inside and he's going to have a Mekhi Becton like type rise if they kick him into the guard. But here though, go get Josh Conerly Jr. You're going to need to address the tackle position one way or the other. If Andrew Thomas can stay healthy, that's going to be great for the team just in general. But I think going to get Josh Conerly provides a lot of options for the Giants.
Yeah. I mean, his biggest concern is just his ability to handle the bull rush, and that was largely alleviated for me in 2024. He gained about 15 pounds. He's still a great athlete, and he has the arm length and the like requisite wingspan for the position. For me, I think if he is going to flip over to right, he's going to need to put on maybe a little bit more weight. If he's going to stay at left, I think they can maybe get away with it just because you typically run more runs to the right. But with his athleticism, I think that gives him such an advantage at the tackle position. Has a few other things I think to work out, but you get a fringe starting tackle right away, I think, with Josh Conerly here.
Yeah.
And with the depth that they have at that position, I think that's just going to really fill a need. So if they want to go with a beefier tackle, they could go with Ariante Ursary. They also, if they want to go with a run stuffing defensive tackle to go next to Dexter Lawrence, they could go Tyleek Williams, Jaden Higgins too. If they want to get a bigger X receiver to kind of go with Darius Slayton and Malik Neighbors there as well. So I think there's a lot of different routes that they could go here in the second round. This also could just be a best player available spot for them. But let's move
Yeah.
on to their next pick here. So Jaxson Dart, they do dip into this quarterback class. It is not Shedeur Sanders, but Jaxson Dart is a guy that if you go watch my most recent mock draft, which is probably out by now, is a guy that I actually featured in the first round just because he has a lot of big play ability. He's actually able to throw the ball in some tight windows over the middle pretty well. He definitely has some bad throws on his tape, so don't let that kind of shy you away. But I think with the system that Brian Dable is going to run, with the veterans that are already there in New York, I feel like Jaxson Dart could come in and potentially learn from those guys and then maybe work out some of his kinks that made him fall down here to the top of the third round. But all in all, I think that this is a really solid pick.
Yeah, well, especially too, just with the number of picks that they have, the needs that they have for the team, and this is kind of a safety net pick to like for maybe a guy that we can go and develop. It could be something, and I think maybe worst case scenario. Well, worst case scenario, he's just one of the worst quarterbacks ever drafted. But he's probably going to be like a Drew Lock-esque type guy, but with upside though for that
Yeah.
potential to be that kind of explosive, versatile quarterback player because he does have the arm talent. We've seen him make the throws. It's just can he piece everything together? So I kind of like this move overall. I think this is going to be about where he goes, maybe a little bit earlier in the second round. And the Giants do have a compensatory pick here in the third round. We'll get to in a second if they wanted to move up and go and get a guy. But if they were wanting to go a different route, I really do like Ty Felton here. He was still available on the board. I think get another receiver for that room to kind of help out with this offense. I think he's a very unique, dynamic player, which would be a good compliment to Malik Neighbors. But another guy, though, too, that I like, I think that would help out this defensive line as a whole. You see, was taken just a couple picks later by Cleveland. Big fan of CJ West. I think he would pair up really well with the edge rushers that they have in New York.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a good pick as well. I mean, the Giants have done a decent job, I think, of setting themselves up to be in a best player available situation. Maybe it's also the fact that they just might not have a lot of talent, so they could draft best player available, and it's filling a need either way. But one need that I do think that they really need to fill at some point in this draft, whether it's with a developmental guy or a guy like Terrence Ferguson. Jake Ferguson is the tight end for Dallas. But
My bad. Sorry.
Terrence Ferguson, the tight end from Oregon, I think is going to be a really good value pick. Was a really good kind of possession tight end, good in the red zone there for Oregon, and so I like what he brings to the table for this Giants team, and I think Brian Dable could definitely use him correctly.
Yeah, no, and my apologies again on the air, the Terrence Ferguson there though. But as you said too, this is a deep tight end class as a whole. So if they miss it on some of the guys like Tyler Warren, Colson Loveland, if he's not there by the second round, or see who's available for where Jaxson Dart was taken out at the beginning of the third round, I could see them going tight end here. I think Gunnar Helm was taken just before this. I think he would be also be an interesting guy
Yeah.
as well going into the this Giants draft. So this will be a very unique draft for New York. I think it's really going to be all dependent on what they do at the quarterback position, if they even address it, or if they're like, let's ride with Russell Wilson here, or if because I think this draft class is deep enough to where they can get really good value at each and every single one of their picks and make just a really good, solid team. Some of these guys can come in and contribute on day one. So it'll be unique on how they approach this, how early they take quarterback, if they take quarterback at all now. Or maybe they're still in the Shedeur Sanders market and they're like, we just needed this to be a safety net just in case if Russell Wilson like doesn't start off really well, which that would not surprise me one bit. And like we need to throw Shedeur Sanders in there and show we can develop a guy.
Yeah, that is like we talked a little bit about this in my most recent mock draft, but like maybe there is a case to take Shedeur as a job saving move because if you can show progress with Shedeur by the end of the year, maybe you can leverage that into having the ownership keep you around for another go around. But with that being said, the ownership was pretty clear that they need to win this year. And if not, there will be new people in the roles.
Yeah. I will say
So,
this, if I am Shedeur Sanders, there's even more pressure or whichever quarterback gets taken here by these guys, if this doesn't go well this year, be like, I would be they're in a very sticky situation because whichever regime does come in, like worst case scenario, and there's new head
yeah,
coach, new GM, they have no allegiance to these guys at all. So like they
yeah,
will absolutely cut bait and be like, yeah, this wasn't our guy. We wouldn't have selected this guy. Very easy to play a scapegoat
yeah.
there. So a lot of pressure going on, I think, to whichever quarterback gets taken by the Giants here.
Yeah. Well, and also too, like there's it could be a rough situation to even want to go into because it's like, well, I like they were talking about if Gerard Mayo stayed with the Patriots and like could they get an offensive coordinator? It's like if I'm a quarterback, I don't necessarily want to go to a place where it's like I don't like there could be coaching turnover in the
Mhm.
first like the after the first year because it's a big jump from college to the NFL. And so I it's a really interesting spot that the Giants are in, especially with the owner basically publicly proclaiming that heads are on the block here. So
Yeah.
I I'm excited to see what the Giants do in this draft. Let's go ahead. Let's wrap up this video here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. That is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, leave a comment on what you thought of this Giants 3-round mock draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you have done differently? Other than that, we'll see you guys next time.